Okay, good day everyone. In this nice occasion, I want a presentation about my study research paper that entitled Perception from International Relations Student about how Indonesia can improve the standard of work ethic based on principles of the Japanese work ethic. Okay, this is my table of content. Uh, We gonna we start from introduction. So the background introduction is we're gonna talk about Japanese work ethic. We can say this is a word, uh, this is a keyword too, and uh, along with development of industrialization, global markets, and advanced technology in the midst of the social life, the standard of living and system of human work ethic have also increased. So this work ethic can be defined as a set of basic attitude or views held by a group of people to recognize that work is a positive thing to improving the quality of life. So it's affect the person work behavior. Work ethic is important to increase productivity and efficiency in work so as to build a more open work process based on kinship and togetherness. And next, as we know that Japanese people lives have a very high standard of living. The application of advanced technology and globalization requires them to take education to a certain level in order to balance their own standard of living uh, and be able to keep up with the times. In addition, judging is a person. Judging a person through this educational background as his capital and future income is deeply emphasized in Japanese society. The Japanese work ethic is often reflected in the behavior of Japanese worker, which can be seen from the number of long working hours, high dedication, and loyalty of workers to the company. So, not infrequently, if we see workers generally work longer hours than workers from other countries, the high demands from the company so they can work according to the target gave rise to a phenomenon that became known as service overtime or sabi suzangyo in Japanese terms. But beside that, an average Japanese worker can do job should be done by 5 to 6 people just by one people. Therefore, Japanese people are highly paid because they can complete the work that should be done by more than one person. And then when they working, Japanese people don't talk and freaking too much. The important thing for them is to prepare for the work and assignment given. So if any country wants to be like Japan, they also need to have workers capable of doing multiple jobs at the same time. Uh, the characteristic of work ethic and work culture in Japanese are number one is work for pleasure, not just for salary, and number two, put customer first. Number three, business is war, and all Japanese people believe in one proverb. It's said that hara gaheteha ikusaha dekino. That means if you are hungry, you cannot fight. And then we're going to talk the issues. So there have been a research that discusses the comparison of working hours in Japan with other countries and also the perspective of business culture about work ethic in Japan society. The application of work ethic based on several Japanese working principle can be a factor that support productivity and even the mentality of worker in Indonesia. So my research goals is in supporting the improvement of work ethics standard in Indonesia. This study aims to identify what Japanese work ethic system should be applied in Indonesia by considering various aspects such as culture, behavior, and norms that apply in life of Indonesian people. And then this is the research question. Number one is how the application of the principles of work ethic in Japan can become a major factor in improving the performance standard of Indonesian workers, so that their standard of living also develops. And then second, are all of principles, including service over time, can be effective in improving the quality of work in Indonesian workers? Next, we going to talk about literature framework. So the Japanese work ethic style consists of teamwork, loyalty to the company. There is a seniority system. People will embrace if you go home early, treats guests as a king, on time, honest, loyal, hardworking, creative, innovative, and productive. Also discipline and embrace to if they go home too early and attach importance to all terms of work. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, bad work ethic is still prevalent. As in the field of bureaucracy, for example, someone who wants to occupy a certain position generally has to pay a bribes. But not all Indonesians have a bad work, actually. The author, I hope that with this comparison with Japanese work ethic, we can take the good side in it so that Indonesia can become a country that has much better work ethic than before. If, of course, the good side, it will happen, it's possible to happen if we have awareness from within each other, and the role of a nation leader, that as an example in growing a work culture that is ready to compete in business community in a global world. Next, this is my empirical review. So the literature review for support this study research is from Usni Ingsi in 2011, has conducted research on how to apply a professional work ethic in improving the performance of human resource. She said there are several professional work ethic, including work ethic in Japan, that can be used as the basic factor in creating reliable resources in Indonesian companies. And in Indonesia, the existence of reliable workforce is still questionable. There is also a fact that several companies have so far only focusing on investing in capital-intensive sector rather than labor-intensive sector. In contrast to workers in Japan, who are paid for their achievement and innovation in the workplace, not from their hierarchical positions. And then the next one is research method. So the researcher choose a qualitative research design, use in-depth interview. So subjectivity or level of understanding from my participants, and how they perceive the question that will be asked is very crucial in qualitative approach method. And the researcher uses open-ended question to provide broad responses from all participants. They will be asked their opinion on the implementation of Japanese work ethics standard in Indonesia. Next, this is the findings. The analysis of participants those expressed their opinion on the application of the Japanese work ethic for workers in Indonesia. The result of the qualitative analysis show that the component of the perception of the application of the Japanese work ethic in Indonesia that from subjective assessment and perception of the participant as follow. Number one, perspective on how Indonesia can improve work ethic standard based on principles of the Japanese work ethic as a major factor. And the second, negative impact that may occur if the Japanese work ethic system, including like service overtime, is implemented in Indonesia. Next is the result from finding. So the result is from first question, how the application of the principle of the work ethic in Japan can become a major factor in improving the performance standard of Indonesian so that their standard of living also develops. One of my participants said that the work ethic in Japan can become a major factor to improve the quality of work for workers in Indonesia. As has been explained that in the principles of the Japanese work ethic itself, there is honesty, where it's very important in the world of work. Because in the practice, all companies certainly need values. Honesty for every individual involved in the work. Then there is also the unyielding nature until the goal is achieved, which means it is the embodiment of optimism. And optimism is needed because it's a trait that everyone must process. If people give up easily, then the work to be achieved will not be achieved properly and better. My participant is called Steve. And the next result about second question, uh, which is are all of principles including service overtime can be effective in improving the quality of work from Indonesian workers? One of my participants argued that Japanese and Indonesian salaries are very different. So it is not effective for regarding to my participant opinion. And because the working hours between the two countries are also different. In Indonesia, many people work more than 8 hours, but the salary they get is still not enough for the Indonesian people. So he also give some advice for the Indonesian government or Indonesian companies that still provide hours beyond the normal time limit to increase the salaries of their workers so that they get a better life. My participant called Marshall. And the next one, this is still second question, but different perspective from different participants. Uh, One participant called Timothy say that the Japanese work ethics system known as service overtime can be effective in improving the work of worker in Indonesia. The average Indonesian worker is actually diligent and smart. It's just that the wage they get are not commensurate with the hours work. This factor can be said that to be the cause of the decline in the work ethic of Indonesia. So, in his opinion, the Japanese work ethic is effectively implemented in Indonesia only if the government is ready to make a policies relate to salaries on or income that is commensurate with the high working hours. Because if not, of course, this will reduce the work ethic of worker in Indonesia time to time. And then the next we go to discussion. So from the findings that show that international relations students already understand the work ethic of Japanese worker. Some students find the problem topic very interesting and try to understand it better. They have the same perception about implementation of the Japanese work ethic system in Indonesia, which is it's mostly effective. So perception about the application of the Japanese work ethic system in Indonesia have both good and bad sides. It depends on the student point of view. And according to the average participant, the work ethic in Japan can be carried out by Indonesia. Next one is conclusion. And so in this 2D, a worker, especially in Indonesia, is very important to increase their productivity with the Japanese work ethic as the main reference. There are still many imbalance in the employment sector in Indonesia, such as lack of education, lack of competence, and lack of salaries that are not sufficient for their lives of workers. A suggestion to the government and companies in Indonesia in order to overcome these problems is by holding competency training programs for workers so as to produce a professional workforce ready to workers that ready to compete in a global scope and reliable so that the level of state income will also increase. Right, I think that's all about my paper presentation. Uh, thank you everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.